You may remember several years ago on television, Candid Camera with Alan Funt, and they would set up situations and trick people into things that they didn't understand, and they were very funny. Well, there was one episode where it was in the Bronx in New York, which was not a very agrarian place like you would raise sheep. But the high school, the local high school, had given the seniors aptitude tests, giving them some idea of, hopefully the results of some idea of a career that would be good for them. Well, Candid Camera set up a counselor's office in the school to give the test results to the students. Well, one young man, a senior, came in to get his results, and the counselor said, well, the results of your testing shows that you would be most equipped to live the life of a shepherd. Well, the student just sat there and looked at him and said, what's a shepherd? And the counselor showed him a picture of shepherds out in the field taking care of the sheep. With that, the student was even more confused, and he said, there's got to be some mistake. He says, this can't possibly be me. And of course, then Alan Funt breaks the news to him that this is Candid Camera. I thought of that episode in reading the gospel because it's about being a shepherd. We don't relate to that too well because we don't probably even know a shepherd. Maybe some of you do. Once in a while, you can drive by a place in Ohio where there's some sheep in a field, but that's about as much as we see. But the point is that in Jesus using that image in the gospel is showing that being a shepherd is really a very demanding job. It's risky, it's dangerous, it's demanding, it's a full-time 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week job for the shepherd to care for the sheep. And so he's got to commit his life to them, actually, and be even willing to lay down his life for them, just to rescue them from predators and predator animals. And so when Jesus uses the example that he's a good shepherd, he's not like the hired shepherd. A hired shepherd is somebody that doesn't really care about the sheep. He's there to make a few bucks and then he'll be on his way. And so if some difficult thing comes along, he'll probably just take off. But a true shepherd is going to relate to the sheep and is going to be there for them in every way. Jesus is saying that he is the good shepherd, leading us into everlasting life. And he will not give up on us. He will always be there for us. And I think that's one of the messages of today's readings. The second part of it is, I think that we're all called to be shepherds in a sense. A mother and father are shepherds of their family. And because they love the family, they're not hired to their family. Because they love them, they're committed to them, and they'll do anything for their family, even give their life for them. And Jesus is seeing that as an example of being a good shepherd. Students, you can be a good shepherd by cultivating your own mind and taking your studies seriously, because the Lord's preparing you for some career in the future that will be good for his people. And if we take all the positions that we have, that we work, that we do, we could always see some aspect where it's of service to people. And if we do it with the love of Christ, what a difference that makes. It's one thing just to go to work and do the job and come home and collect the paycheck. It's another thing to do something with a deeper level, where it makes a difference in people's lives. And every person's job really does that when you think about it. So I think that's another aspect that the Lord is teaching us today in the scriptures. And then who are the sheep? I'm a pastor. The word pastor means shepherd. And who am I a shepherd for? Sometimes I get criticized for helping people that are not part of the flock. Or why are you helping that person? They're not a part of our flock. I don't think that's my job. I know that my job by canon law is every single person that lives within the boundaries of St. Patrick's Parish, whether they are Catholic or not, whether they are Christian or not, whether they are rich or poor or whatever. I'm responsible for their soul. That's a huge job. So when someone comes to me that I don't know, my first thought is I need to get to know that person. I want to know them and understand them, and then we develop a relationship. And maybe that will draw them closer into the fold. And I think that, remember in Scripture, to know someone is to love someone. And so we get to know people, we develop a personal relationship, and we can be Jesus to them in a real way. We might have neighbors or friends that don't know anything about the church. Just in your casual conversations, you might let them know some good things about the church, and it might make them stop and think to want to know more. There's small opportunities that we shouldn't overlook to introduce people to Christ, the Good Shepherd. And sometimes it will be demanding of us. I remember one night, it was in May, 6 or 8 inches of rain fell within a few hours in Alleluia. And our lower church, all of our classrooms, the library, the cafeteria, everything was flooded with about 2 feet high water. It was totally devastated. It cost $500,000 to restore it. That's how bad the damage was. But I remember how within a short time, tons of parishioners showed up. They got on the phone or whatever at the time and called people, and there were just tons of people that were there, and they worked the whole night trying to get the water out, trying to get the mud out, and trying to take care of things as best they could. And I thought, that's another example of shepherding. They loved the church, that's why they would do it. I remember another incident as a shepherd. I was only ordained about a year, and I don't think I told you this story before, but the pastor hired a new custodian, and we didn't know him real well, but weekend came, and he had been working for a week, and the pastor went out of town for the weekend, and this man came to the door, and he wanted his paycheck. And I said, well, I can't give it to you because I don't know what the pastor agreed to pay you or what the terms were. So if you just come back Monday morning, he'll be back and he'll give you the check. Well, the guy got real mad, real angry. He said, I'm demanding my money right now. And he got more and more angry. And he said, you know, I can destroy you and this whole church if I want to. I want my paycheck. I said, well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And if you don't, I'm going to call the police because you're getting me very upset. So he left, and I went in my office, and I was wearing my long black cassock, and sat in my office, and suddenly I could hear the crash of glass. Well, this man had picked up a concrete flower pot that was next to the front church door, and he smashed it on the ground and broke it. And then he took one of the pieces of it and threw it right through the big plate glass windows in front of the church. They smashed all over the place. And then he threw another piece, and it broke up the arm of the statue of St. Joseph that was in the vestibule. Well, I got on the phone. I was so shook up, I called 911, and I couldn't even talk. I just said, come right away, help. And I set the phone down, told them, you know, St. Gregory's Church. And I went outside, and then this guy saw me coming. Well, he picked up one of those big chunks of concrete, and he started charging at me. And he threw the rock, but fortunately I ducked, and it went over my head. And then I thought, okay, I gotta stop him. So I just charged. I just ran right towards him, and with my head down, I just bashed right into him and knocked him on the ground. And I had him on the ground holding his feet, and he was kicking his legs. And some people walked by, and must have been quite a sight to see this priest beating somebody up. And fortunately, a police car went by and saw the event, and he came in and stopped it. But I don't know what made me think of that today. Well, it was the gospel, thinking when I had to defend the church. I guess my first thought was, I love this church, and someone's trying to destroy it, and I had to stop them. You know, it was just one of those things, and I probably, looking back, I should not have done that. He could have killed me. I should probably have just let him do the damage and make sure the police got there. But looking back, I'm glad I did what I did because I stopped it. It turned out that he eventually became one of my converts. When they took him to jail, that night, the police called and said that he was allowed one phone call, and he was calling the Pope. He, he, he was trying to reach Rome on the police phone because he wanted to report me to the Pope. So anyway, when he calmed down after a couple of days, I went to the jail to see him. I stayed on this side of the bars, and we had a good conversation, and ultimately he turned Catholic and became quite a good person. But anyway, I'm rambling a little bit today, but sometimes stories let us know how we need to act. If we love something, we're going to really give ourselves to it. And we need to love the church. We need to love our families. We need to love one another. And the more that we do that, like Jesus, the Good Shepherd, we're going to draw people into the flock. So this week, you might just, as you go about doing things, even strangers, just to be kind, say a kind word, a neighbor, how are you doing? Things like that just might open the door to lead people closer to Christ.